Every project starts with a cab and a chassis. Today, we'll show you what to look for when you're finding the right cab for your project truck, and we'll get the small block engine wired and fired.
You know, I think this thing needs a big blower up front.
You think everything needs a big blower on it?
Well, it does, doesn't it?
I think you have a problem.
Hey, welcome to Truck U. I'm Bruno Massel.
And I'm Matt Steele.
So obviously in the shop here today, we've got this nice looking 72 Chevy pickup truck.
It's obviously a 72 and obviously a pickup truck.
Well, you know, the cab is off and that needs a little bit of work, but we'll get to that in a second. What we do have right here is the chassis for it. And this is a nice rolling setup. We've got a lot to work with here.
We do. Gen 1 small block, full drivetrain. 12-bolt rear end, even got a bumper back there, disc brakes, nice wheels and tires. I mean, the wheels and tires are really nice, actually.
Foos, never heard of them. Well, we can maybe replace those. You know, rolling across to the cab right here, we've got something that is definitely an issue because that's why we took the thing off. It's got a lot of rust. You know, when you look at places like here, the seams and the drip rail, all that stuff is rusted out, and those are really hard places to get to replace. So we got a point of, well, do we fix this thing or do we just scrap it and start with something new?
Well, what you're talking about are the areas where the metal comes together with other pieces of metal, right? Like this brace, for example, down here, you've got 3 layers of metal all kind of coming and folding together. And what happens is it rusts, and then you get this right here. So we're not going to be able to knock that rust off. There won't be anything left.
Now, you know, some people might say, well, you know, all those rust spots are in hidden areas that nobody's going to see. We can shoot it with some paint, throw it back on. The reality is, in 2 years, you're going to see that and a whole lot of other damage. We don't want to go down that route. So now it's a matter of, do we fix it or do we scrap it?
Well, we have a very strict policy here, right? And if the damage is worse than, say, what is it,
58.4.
58.4, just roughly, right? We pitch it. And what do you think this is?
I'm going to say at least 59.
At least 59.
So this thing needs to get kicked to the curb.
Yes, it does. So, but we've got to find a replacement, and that's not always easy.
Yeah, people don't have 72 cabs sitting on shelves waiting for guys like us to come pick them up. So we have to find a donor, but I think we're onto one that might be a good fit. Well, a better fit than this.
Cool. Couple phone calls.
Couple phone calls. Bring me in, boss.
Hang on, baby. Are you actually riding on the cab?
Absolutely.
That's good. I should expect nothing else. So after a couple dozen phone calls and some hardcore internet negotiations, here we have it. This is the new cab. Well, new to us, right? So we went and we checked it out to make sure that the metal was good and it wasn't all filler and primer and everything. So it was good. They had it sandblasted and we said, look, if you could hit that with some epoxy coating, we will take it off your hands and roll it back to the shop.
Ta-da, we got it back. And this thing looks good. You know, there's some things we need to deal with, but you know, we got this in an epoxy coating. What's nice about that is it's basically like you're dealing with bare metal because you can weld it, you can do any kind of body work on it, and you don't have to do any kind of grinding. The nice thing about it is the body is protected, so it's not going to rust out. You know, it kind of brings you back to the days of the 50s and 60s. The guys with, you know, the street rods and hot rods, they would get it to this finish, you know, this matte black, and they just go out and race these things and have some fun with it. It's kind of like the rat rods of today. They say it's unfinished, but this is a good finish where it won't rust out, and it's got that nice flat black look to it.
I kind of like that idea of what you're talking about because the guy said from day one he's not looking to make a show truck or anything.
Right.
He wants something that looks cool, looks unique, runs good, and is fun to drive, and that's what he's going to have. And plus, if you got a few dings in it and scratches, you know, you're not so worried about scratching it, right?
Yeah, and it'll make our assembly a whole lot easier, not have to wait on paint or any of that kind of stuff.
Now, we said this is new to us, but it is not perfect, so we need to get this over on the lift and start taking a look and see what we have got.
All right, I'm on.
You're going to ride again?
Wheel me in, baby.
Whatever I can do to make it easier for you.
So our new cab is up on the lift, and we've got a little work to do on this thing. Now, let's face it, it's a 72 Chevy cab. You're not going to find something that's perfect, and this one's not perfect either, but it has what we need. And I'm not talking about the Swiss cheese part of the floor. That can be fixed. The key thing is it's got structural integrity. There's certain places you look for in this cab you have to have. First of all, we talked about the drip rail on the other cab. It was damaged. It was all rusted out, and you've got a bunch of different metal coming together on a compound curve. We're good here, so that can save a lot of time. The other key points you have to have are this lower A-pillar and the back corner of the cab. These are rock solid. The other one was rusted out. The whole point of having this is you've got something solid to attach to. So when we go ahead and take out this rocker, replace it, and fix this floor, we can go ahead and have something solid to attach to so we have something to work with. Now, believe it or not, this cab can actually be bolted onto the chassis. It can be cut out the floor and replace it in place, which is nice because it can save us some time. We can keep moving on the project and don't have to stop. The other thing that's nice too is we've got the structure right here, which is solid as well. Now it comes down to we got to start doing some work, and first things first is getting out these mounting brackets right here. There's a bolt that runs through, but it's so rusted out, it's locked in. The only way to fix it, well, is just cut it off with a Sawzall. Bring her down. Keep coming.
That's it.
It's gonna be close, bud.
Yeah? It's gonna be tight?
I think we got it though.
You need some butter?
A little bit more. Aha, it has arrived. The new cab is on the chassis. We had to do a little fine tuning on the firewall right here. Use the fine tuning instrument to get the job done. And it was a little bit of a clearance issue. Now it would have been a tight fit with the factory valve covers, but we're running these aftermarket ones which are a little bit taller. And the reason why is we make room for the roller rockers and lifters in this engine. Problem is you start running out of room back in here, so we had to do a little clearance issue we had to take care of, and we'll probably have to do a little bit more, but at least we can get the valve covers off without having to take the old cab off, which is a good thing.
True, and another good thing is this cab had AC, so that'll make life easier. You know, you got the cutouts right there, we got all the cutouts up on the dash, so anything to make the job easier is good.
I say we bring it up one more time for one last adjustment, and then we're good to go.
I just put it down.
One more time.
Come on.
All right, we're going to take a break while we get this fixed up, and when we come back, hopefully we can start doing some wiring on this thing as well, because we got to get this thing fired today, bud.
Yes, you do.
Bring her up.
You need to do some wiring.
Me?
This segment of Truck U is brought to you by ARP Bolts, the world leader in fastener technology.
Every truck has a story. The Defoe's LMC Truck Life story started in 1972 when they were looking for the right way to camp with their family. They chose this 1972 Chevy Camper Special. After a number of camping trips, they decided to relocate, using the truck to move the family from Long Island to Florida. The Defoes gave the oldest son the use of the truck and camper for his honeymoon, and then the youngest son drove the truck until his graduation in 1986. And then the truck sat. This is where LMC Truck came into their lives. Once the restoration was complete, the Defoes had a truck where the hardest part for the family now is figuring out who to pass the truck on to. Read more about the Defoe's 1972 Chevy Camper or share your own truck journey at lmctrucklife.com.
Now, Bruno, for wiring, will you need any more precision instruments?
No more fine tuning. I think we're cut.
Hey, welcome back to Truck U. And an interesting thing is that I was just thinking off the top of my head, right? 1972. 3 things that I can think of right now are super cool that came from that year. Can you name them?
I can think of 2 right now. That truck we just saw from the guys at LMC
that's
Truck,
one.
that was cool.
That's one.
This isn't going to be even cooler.
That's 2.
I'm lost on 3.
Oh, right here, dude. Right here. You're looking at him. Your co-host, your hero. Right here, Matt
You're
Steele.
embarrassing yourself.
What? No.
It's 2 out of 3. All right. So when it comes to wiring this truck, it's actually pretty simple. It's not like the fuel-injected monsters of today. Really, a small block Chevy is about as easy as it gets, and it all starts with making the connection right here into the firewall. So it'll go right here. This is an aftermarket wiring system we've got, and it's all good, so we can reutilize it. We just need the other side of the connector.
That's on the other cab. As far as the insults go, dude, I'm standing right here. I can hear that stuff.
You just go get that connector.
Man.
All right, so Matt's going to get the other side of the bulkhead. We'll plug that in, but really you need 5 wires, and that's what it comes down to, how simple it is. That's once you got the battery hooked in place. We'll get to that. But so right now you've got the alternator wire. It's a 1 wire going right here. Then you've got the water sending unit right here, which goes into the side of our cylinder head. You've got this wire is going to go to our starter, which will obviously get the motor cranked over. And then you've got a coil and tach wire here. It's just that simple, 5 wires to get this thing fired. Now, I know you're looking at some other wires laying here. It's nothing to be intimidated by. Every wire is marked already, so you can see where it goes, and it's just simple things. You've got lights forward and back. You've got turn signals as well as the radiator and fan. Now, this whole module right here is a little bit complicated. It's a little sophisticated. It could be done a little easier. Depending on how much time we have, we might cut some of this out, but needless to say, this will get the job done, and before you know it, we can get this thing up and running again. That's if Matt ever comes back with the other side of our connector.
It's 2 bolts, genius. Be like 5 seconds. There. See? What's your hurry?
All right, that should do it. So we had to do a little bit of fine tuning on our firewall here. Now I know we said that it would just jump right in place the other side of the bulkhead connector from the other cab, but like most projects, it didn't quite just fit. So we had to go ahead and use some snips, open up the hole a little bit, and I fine tuned it with our die grinder right there. Now Matt's got to go ahead and open up the holes we've got to mount it in place.
Let's double check that though, because we marked those holes, right?
Right.
And I just want to double check, make sure that you can see through them. It's kind of like I want to measure twice and cut one. All right, we're going to spin it around just the other way, all the way around. Just right?
Again.
Yeah, there we go, because then our flat side's on that. That lines up for you, right?
Yep.
How are the holes looking? Good?
Beauty.
All right, good. We can bore these out with the step-up bit. Now what I did was I marked this bit right there with the black marker because I want to take it up to that point, but not any further than that. This way, if you're using a regular drill bit or something like that and you go in there, just yank the drill right out of your hand. This way it won't happen. So let's do this.
Now we're continuing on with our wiring. A lot of people, they get intimidated when they see all these wires, but we're showing you how simple it really can be to wire up a small block. Now we've done the engine side, and there were just a few wires to do, 4 or 5. You reach inside the cab, and we're going to continue on. So what I've got right here is a multimeter set in the continuity feature, and the whole idea is to show you guys how the starter switch works. Now these things have been around forever, and they've basically been unchanged up until recently, and the reason why is because they're simple to wire and they work. So what we've got right now is we're simulating power coming in right here from the battery. What we do is you put the key in and you put it in the different settings. So right now, if we hook up our accessory mode, when you go to the left to accessory, you hear it tone, you know you're wired the right way. And if you're to go key on ignition, you hear the tone. So that's the right way for accessory. Now this one is labeled so it makes it easy, but if it wasn't, this is the right way to go to make sure your wires are run properly. The next would be to our starter solenoid. So you go accessory mode, nothing. Key on, nothing. The only time you want to have power is when you go to crank, and that's where we're at right here. The other side of it, you've got going to your coil. Now this side, you want to make sure that here we're off. You go to key on, you've got the tone, you've got power, and cranking. Now where a lot of people make mistakes is they put the coil wire where the starter solenoid should be. So what happens is they crank it up, the thing lights off, they let go of the crank, and the thing shuts off. So now they don't know what's going on. You think, well, maybe I have a fueling issue, something's wrong with the carburetor, losing spark. You start chasing a bunch of stuff and you're pulling your hair out, and you simply have one wire wrong. So make sure you take the time and check the switch, and you've got everything lined up correctly. It'll save you a lot of time in the long run. We're gonna go ahead and get this thing wired up, and I'm telling you, when we come back from break, I think we'll be able to light this thing off and give you guys an idea what this thing is gonna be capable of. You'll hear the power. It's pretty easy to get it going.
This segment of Truck U is brought to you by Woodward Fab, quality metalworking equipment since 1966.
Welcome back to Truck U. So the work continues today on the 1972 Chevy. It's coming along nicely. We've got the cab in place, and Bruno did a bunch of the wiring right there, namely in the ignition system, just enough to where we could actually turn this thing over here in a little bit. What that does is it keeps us motivated, keeps us going on the job. Now that everything's exposed, we can come back here to the fuel tank and take a look at it. Now obviously what's going on? Fuel's going in there. Here's your sending unit right there. That tells you how empty or full it is. This is the supply line up to the engine. This is your return line. Interestingly enough, the supply and return line are tied together, run down the frame rail, and up to the front of the engine. Let's go take a look at that though, because I say it's interesting because this guy had a return line on there, but it never got used. You come on up and you look at the fuel pump right here, the mechanical fuel pump. A lot of times they'll have a return line off of the pump and that'll just run back there. But no, this one comes one in and one out. So let's follow it up. Boom, 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 up here. Here we go. Running the fuel on up to the carburetor. Still no return line up here. Now, what happens is you've got guys that run return lines in some areas and some other. If we're talking about a mild horsepower carbureted application, you may never have a problem with it. But in each state, you've got different mandates, right? And it mandates a different fuel mixture. And what that does is that creates a different flash point on the fuel to where it can boil off. So think about it this way. If you're not running a return line, the fuel's coming in, and the mechanical fuel pump is based on RPMs. So as you pick up the RPMs, it's working harder, and it's spooling up, and it's getting hotter, and it's cramming all this fuel up into here. Well, if the carburetor gets to the point where it can't take any more, it's going to get backed up. It's like a little traffic jam right there. So this is getting hot and spooling it up and sending more. The fuel's sitting in these lines, not moving, and all of a sudden it flashes. Boom, it boils. You've got vapor lock right there because the fuel is stuck. The return line, what that does is any excess fuel, it allows that to go back to the tank. It keeps it moving, it keeps it from getting too hot, and keeps you from getting vapor lock. And that is kind of the whole debate on why do we need a return line or not. So we're going to go ahead and tee in right here, and this guy should not have any vapor lock problems.
All right, man. It looks like we've got oil. We're good there.
Yeah, we're almost there, dude. I got you some battery power. It's all coming together.
All right, it is almost time to bring some little life into this project. You know, Matt talked about it earlier. Sometimes you need to fire an engine to get motivated again. You talk about a project that's this involved. Sometimes you lose your way as you're going along, you lose your motivation. That's why a lot of projects sit. So we like kind of like spark things up by firing it up and listen to an engine roar, feel the heat, so to speak, and smell some fumes. Kind of gets me going.
It does. That's a whole different story together. But, you know, so we've got the wiring done, just enough of it. We've got power, we've got fuel, everything else, right?
Yeah, I barred the motor over. It was free. It didn't lock up. We pulled the plugs. Everything's good there.
There's
Fuel,
oil in it.
Oil. I think we're ready. Am I missing
not?
something?
Not that I know of. Should I be standing back?
Come on, trust me.
Yeah, that's...
Fingers crossed, baby. Here we go. Huh? Hold on. And you doubted me.
You did make it look kind of easy.
Well, it's pretty cool. You know, you
Just
talk
saying.
about, you know, this older technology with a carburetor and all that fuel injection. None of that nonsense is here. So this thing, a matter of a few wires and really not a whole lot of time, this thing fire right up again. And I'll tell you something. I'm feeling good about this. I'm motivated again.
I am too. Now, another thing you talked about was the whole rat rod feel, right?
Yeah.
I kind of love it the way that it looks, dude. I'd almost keep the bed off. I know we have one, but, you know, keep the bed off, no front clip, nothing.
Well, you know, if you look at it, basically we have a rolling truck sitting right here. You know, you've got the suspension, you've got the drivetrains all in place, all that stuff you need. All basically you can put a radiator and fan on it, a couple seats and a steering wheel. We are ready to rock, and I think that's how we send this thing out the door. I don't know what he's expecting to come out, but he'll have a running vehicle.
I smell someone who's trying to get the job done to get the truck out of the shop. That's what it is. But you know what? All kidding aside, I do. You feel this little bit of accomplishment. I'm feeling pretty good about this, right?
You know, the thing is, we've taken the necessary steps so it can be finished as the truck that he would want, a streetable, everyday driver. But you know what, the rat ride thing, dude, that's the avenue I say we push him down.
Bruno, let's take a little break from the Chevy project truck just for a minute, and then we can come in here and take a look at some of the new stuff that came by today. Now, this is Hyperlube Super Coolant. The action here is that it breaks down the surface tension of your coolant, allowing it to more deeply penetrate into the metal.
The result of that is more heat's being pulled away from your cylinder head, and the engine overall is going to run cooler. Now, you know the deal with a high-performance engine. You need to keep it cool to keep it alive. Well, this is going to give you up to 20-degree drop in overall engine temperature, and it's going to act as a corrosion protector. So not only is it good for gas engines, but now they offer it for diesel as well.
Not only that, dude, I totally dig the colors.
Yeah, it looks good, man.
This is a product that I like to use, and I use it quite a bit. It's Purple Power. I use it in the engine compartment of an old boat that I've got. It's nice because it's easy. I spray it right in, I spray it out, and it's clean, right? Cuts right through the grease, the oil, the dirt, it's gone.
Yeah, the best part about it is this stuff is so strong, there's no scrubbing involved. You spray it on, you hose it off, and it does all the work for you. What's nice about it too is the fact that it creates a barrier between the stain and that surface you just cleaned and protected, and it's also biodegradable, which is nice when you talk about something that's this strong.
The Purple Power makes my life easier, and I like all things that make my life easier, which reminds me, I kind of need to talk to you about it.
All right, we can talk about something here in a minute. We're going to take a break, we come back, we can talk, and we can actually get to work, which would be nice.
Let's start with this. You've got to stop interrupting me, right? Secondly, it's all about me.
Were you
right?
saying something? You're behind the wheel of your diesel truck, and when you're making a turn, you start hearing a little growl out of that power steering box. A great way to treat that and fix the problem is pour in 2 ounces of Z-Max.
Yeah, it's an easy fix, and we use Z-Max a lot around the shop, and it works very simple, right? Here's the whole concept of it all. You've got your regular sized molecule of lubricant or motor oil, and that's right here. It's about this big, right? Now the molecule size on the Z-Max is about like this. It's much smaller because it's a micro lubricant. So you get a bunch of these little dudes right here, and they can all swim around and go a bunch of places where this big guy can't. And that's what's going to keep the whole thing cool.
What happens is those Z-Max molecules actually soak into the metal, and they can lubricate at a much higher level than a traditional lubricant or your engine oil. So what you do is by pouring it in, it actually will wick into the metal, and so it'll remove carbon deposits that'll free up your engine and restore power. Now you can not only use it in your engine, whether it's gas or diesel, but pour it into your transmission, or in this instance, your power steering fluid.
Bruno, I'm going to let you and everybody else in on a little Z-Max secret. Whether it's the engine, the fuel, the transmission, whatever the Z-Max formula is, they're all the same, right? And they can be used interchangeably in gas and diesel.
That's a good point.
Now you know.
This tip is brought to you by Z-Max. Performance you can feel.
That's pretty good for 2 young guys like us.
That's not bad at all. All right, so we totally faked that, and the guys that helped us put the bed on are right over there. Thanks, fellas. Appreciate
Hey,
it.
welcome back to Truck U. Now we've got the bed on. You can see we're feeling pretty motivated after we got that engine wired and fired. Now it's just getting the rest of those body panels on.
I know I said I like the way it looked, but I love that bed. It looks great. Bruno, whatever you do, don't sneeze, or our entire house of cards will come crumbling down at our feet.
You know, it's not a finished project just yet, but we have made a lot of headway in just one day. The small block's running, the rolling chassis is done, we got body panels on. It's getting there.
It's one of those things where you could work all day underneath the hood, and as soon as you close it, you know, by the looks of things, you didn't do anything. But you spend 5 minutes putting the bed back on the frame, and you feel like you worked all day. That's my kind of job, dude.
I like
Love
that.
it.
Hey, that's all the time we got for this project. We'll catch you guys next time on Truck U.
See ya.
You got some seats?
Oh, that. Yeah? I don't know where I put them.